Please yourself. How to stop people pleasing, stop being a pushover, beat your guilt and stop caring what others think of you. Be Confident and Fearless book, transform the way you live. If you would like to download the free PDF to this book, please click on the link in the description. Chapter 1. Introduction, Why you feel the need to please others. Hi, my name is Nakar and I wrote this book to help people stop people pleasing. In the introduction, I'll share some personal anecdotes about how I had issues with always putting others first due to fear of rejection. I'm sure you can relate to wanting to be liked and accepted by others. We live in a world where we're constantly bombarded with messages about needing to be perfect. We see perfect families on TV, perfect careers in movies, and social media is filled with people showing off their seemingly perfect lives. It's no wonder that so many of us feel like we have to put on a show for others and try to please everyone all the time. The problem with people pleasers is that we're never truly happy. We're always trying to please others and make them happy, but we forget about our own happiness in the process. We end up sacrificing our own needs and desires in order to make someone else happy. And even when we do manage to make someone else happy, it's only temporary because there's always someone else who needs our attention. If you're tired of people pleasing and you're ready to start putting yourself first, then this book is for you. In the pages that follow, we'll explore the reasons why you feel the need to please others, how people pleasing can backfire, and what you can do to start putting yourself first. So let's get started. Chapter 2. The problem with people pleasing. The pleaser's dilemma. Do you find yourself saying yes to things you really don't want to do? Do people take advantage of your good nature? If you're a people pleaser, you might have what I call the pleaser's dilemma. On the one hand, you want to be liked and feel needed. On the other hand, you end up feeling resentful and taken for granted. You might even start to feel like a doormat. In this chapter, we'll explore the pleaser's dilemma in more depth. We'll also look at some of the underlying causes of people-pleasing behavior. Finally, we'll explore some strategies for overcoming the pleaser's dilemma. The origins of people-pleasing. People-pleasing is a pervasive problem that affects people of all ages, genders, and walks of life. It can be detrimental to our relationships, careers, and overall well-being. So why do we do it? There are many psychological theories about the origins of people-pleasing behavior. Some suggest that it stems from low self-esteem or a fear of rejection. Others believe that people-pleasers are simply seeking approval and validation from others. Whatever the reason, people-pleasing is often rooted in insecurity and a lack of self-confidence. We worry that we won't be liked or accepted if we don't go out of our way to please others. We might feel like we have to put everyone else's needs before our own. This can be an exhausting way to live, and it often leads to resentment and burnout. If you're sick of people pleasing, it's time to make some changes. Start by exploring the origins of your behavior and understanding why you do it. Only then will you be able to break free from the cycle of people-pleasing and start living a more authentic life. 1. Low self-esteem. One of the most common psychological theories about people-pleasing is that it stems from low self-esteem. People who lack confidence in themselves often go out of their way to please others in an attempt to feel better about themselves. They might think that if they can make other people happy, they will somehow be validated and accepted. Unfortunately, this is rarely the case. People-pleasing only leads to resentment and further feelings of insecurity. If your people-pleasing behavior is driven by low self-esteem, it's important to work on building your confidence. This can be a challenge, but there are many resources available to help you. Start by exploring your beliefs about yourself and challenging any negative thoughts. Practice affirmations and focus on your positive qualities. Seek out supportive relationships with people who make you feel good about yourself. And finally, take risks and do things that scare you. The more you step outside of your comfort zone, the more confident you'll become. 2. fear of rejection. Another common theory is that people-pleasing stems from a fear of rejection. We might believe that we'll be rejected or abandoned if we don't go out of our way to please others. This can be especially true in our romantic relationships. We might stay in an unhealthy relationship because we're afraid of being alone. Or we might put up with someone's bad behavior because we don't want them to leave us. If your fear of rejection is driving your people-pleasing behavior, it's important to explore why you feel this way. Often, our fears are based on irrational thoughts and beliefs. We might think that we're not worthy of love or that we'll never find someone else if we're single. Challenging these negative beliefs can help you to see that your fear of rejection is unfounded. It's also important to practice self-compassion and remind yourself that you're deserving of love and happiness, even if you don't have a partner. 3. Seeking approval. Another theory is that people-pleasing stems from a need for approval and validation. We might feel like we have to go out of our way to please others in order to receive their approval. This can be especially true in our relationships with our parents or other authority figures. We might try to please them in an attempt to earn their love and approval. Unfortunately, this often backfires and leaves us feeling even more insecure and unvalued. If you're seeking approval from others, it's important to remind yourself that you are worthy of love and acceptance, even if they don't give it to you. It might also be helpful to explore your relationship with the person you're seeking approval from. Are they truly supportive and loving? Or are they critical and demanding? If it's the latter, it might be time to set some boundaries or even end the relationship. 4. Avoiding conflict. Another theory is that people-pleasing stems from a desire to avoid conflict. We might go out of our way to please others in order to keep the peace. We might be afraid of what will happen if we rock the boat or upset someone. Unfortunately, this often leads to resentment and conflict down the road. When we suppress our own needs and wants, we eventually reach a breaking point. And when we do finally speak up, it's often in a way that's aggressive or passive-aggressive. If you're avoiding conflict, it's important to remind yourself that conflict is a natural and necessary part of life. It's how we grow and learn. It's also important to practice assertiveness and learn how to express your needs in a healthy way. 5. Fear of missing out, FOMO. Finally, some experts believe that people-pleasing stems from a fear of missing out, FOMO. We might go out of our way to please others in order to avoid feeling left out or left behind. This can be especially true on social media. We might compare ourselves to others and feel like we're not good enough. Or we might see all the fun that our friends are having and feel like we're missing out. If FOMO is driving your people-pleasing behavior, it's important to remember that social media is not an accurate representation of reality. People only share the highlight reel of their life, so it's impossible to know what's really going on behind the scenes. It's also important to focus on your own life and what makes you happy. Instead of comparing yourself to others, focus on your own unique talents and strengths. What's the bottom line? People-pleasing is a common problem that can lead to resentment, conflict, and even anxiety and depression. If you're struggling with people-pleasing, it's important to explore the underlying reasons why. The costs of people-pleasing. People-pleasing is a learned behavior that can be detrimental to our well-being in a number of ways. It often stems from a need for approval and a fear of rejection, and can cause us to sacrifice our own desires in order to please others. While people-pleasing may seem like a harmless way to avoid conflict or make others happy, it can actually have a number of negative consequences. We lose out on our true desires. When we focus on pleasing others instead of ourselves, we can lose sight of what we really want in life. We may end up in jobs or relationships that don't make us happy, living lives that aren't truly our own. Pleasers often have difficulty asserting their needs and wants, and as a result, they end up feeling unfulfilled and unhappy. We miss out on opportunities. People-pleasing can cause us to miss out on opportunities for advancement or growth. We may turn down a chance to speak our minds or take risks for fear of upsetting others or not being liked. As a result, we may stay in jobs or relationships that are no longer good for us, even when there are better options available. We become resentful. Constantly putting others' needs above our own can lead to feelings of resentment. We may start to feel used or taken advantage of, and end up feeling angry and bitter towards the people we're trying to please. This can damage our relationships and make it difficult to maintain healthy boundaries. We become doormats. When we're pleasers, we often allow others to walk all over us. We may say yes to things we don't really want to do, or put up with disrespectful or abusive behavior from others. As a result, we can end up feeling taken advantage of and used. We allow others to control us. Pleasing others can give them a false sense of control over us. We may be afraid to stand up for ourselves or set boundaries because we don't want to upset the people we're trying to please. This can lead to feelings of powerlessness and insecurity. We lose our sense of self-worth. People-pleasing can damage our self-esteem and sense of worth. We may start to believe that our value lies in how well we please others, and that we're not good enough if we don't meet their standards. This can lead to feelings of inadequacy and low self-confidence. We give up our power. When we're focused on pleasing others, we often give up our personal power in the process. We may allow others to make decisions for us, or put their needs above our own. As a result, we can end up feeling powerless and trapped in a cycle of people-pleasing. We become emotionally constricted. People-pleasing can cause us to suppress our emotions and needs. We may bottle up our feelings in order to keep peace or avoid conflict. This can lead to emotional constriction and can damage our relationships. We end up feeling lonely and isolated. Pleasing others often comes at the expense of our own needs and desires. As a result, we can end up feeling isolated and alone even when we're around other people. We may also find it difficult to connect with others on a deeper level, since we're always putting on a mask of compliance. Our physical health suffers as a result of the stress people-pleasing puts on our bodies. People-pleasing can be stressful, and this chronic stress can take a toll on our physical health. It can weaken our immune system, increase our risk of heart disease, and lead to a host of other health problems. So if you're constantly putting others' needs above your own, it's important to find ways to reduce the stress in your life. While people-pleasing may seem like a harmless way to avoid conflict or make others happy, it can actually have a number of negative consequences. If you find yourself constantly sacrificing your own needs for the sake of others, it's important to take steps to change this pattern. Putting your own needs first doesn't mean you're being selfish, it's actually a way to achieve a more balanced and healthy life. Why we keep people-pleasing. People-pleasing can be a tough habit to break. We do it for a variety of reasons, including wanting to be liked, wanting to avoid upset or confrontation, or because it's a learned behavior. Whatever the reason, people-pleasing can take a toll on our mental and emotional health. It's important to try to break the cycle, even if it's difficult. If you're someone who tends to put others' needs before your own, here are 10 reasons why you might keep people-pleasing. We want to be liked. Many of us want to be liked and accepted by others. This can lead us to put their needs above our own in order to gain their approval. We don't want to upset anyone. We might people-please in order to avoid conflict or upsetting others. This can be especially true if we're conflict-averse or tend to worry about what others think of us. We want to be helpful. Helping others can be rewarding in itself, but sometimes we might go above and beyond what's necessary out of a desire to please. We don't want to disappoint anyone. Similar to wanting to be liked, we may people-please in order to avoid disappointing others. This can be especially true if we have high standards for ourselves and feel like we need to meet everyone else's expectations as well. We want to be seen as nice people. We may people-please in order to be perceived as kind, generous, or helpful. This can make us feel good about ourselves and our relationships with others. We don't want to rock the boat. Sometimes, we might go along with what others want in order to keep the peace. This can be especially true in close relationships where we don't want to cause any conflict. We're afraid of confrontation. Many of us avoid confrontations because they make us feel uncomfortable. However, this can lead us to suppress our own needs in order to avoid any conflict. We want everyone to think we're perfect. We may people please in order to maintain our image or to avoid revealing our imperfections. This can be a way of protecting ourselves from criticism or judgment. People-pleasing is a learned behavior. We might have learned this behavior from our parents, friends, or other role models. If we grew up being praised for putting others first, we may continue doing so in our adult relationships. It's hard to break the cycle of people-pleasing. Once we start people-pleasing, it can be difficult to stop. This is because it can become a habit or even an unconscious reflex. We might not even realize that we're doing it until it's pointed out to us. People-pleasing can be detrimental to our well-being if we're not careful. It's important to be aware of the reasons why we might do it so that we can try to break the cycle. If you find yourself people-pleasing, try to take a step back and consider what your motives are. Are you doing it out of a genuine desire to help others? Or are you doing it because you're afraid of confrontation or want to be liked? Once you've identified your reasons, you can start to work on changing your behavior. Remember that it's okay to put your own needs first sometimes. In fact, it's necessary for a healthy balance. Breaking the cycle of people-pleasing can be difficult, but it's worth it for your own well-being. Breaking free from the people-pleasing habit. Recognize that you have a problem with people-pleasing. The first step to breaking free from the people-pleasing habit is to recognize that you have a problem with it in the first place. This might seem like an obvious statement, but it's important to be honest with yourself about your tendencies before you can start to change them. If you find yourself constantly putting other people's needs before your own, always saying yes when you really want to say no, or going out of your way to make other people happy even if it means sacrificing your own happiness, then you probably need to work on breaking this habit. Understand why you please others. Once you've recognized that you have a problem with people-pleasing, it's important to try to understand why you do it. People-pleasing is often a way to avoid conflict or to make others like us, but it can also be a way to seek validation and approval from others. If you can get to the root of why you please others, it will be easier to start changing this behavior. Set boundaries. One of the best ways to break free from the people-pleasing habit is to start setting boundaries with other people. This means learning to say no when you don't want to do something, and not feeling guilty about it. It also means setting limits on how much you're willing to do for others, and not letting yourself be taken advantage of. Don't try to please everyone. Another important step in breaking free from the people-pleasing habit is to stop trying to please everyone all the time. This is an impossible task, and it's only going to lead to frustration and resentment. Instead, focus on pleasing the people who are most important to you, and let go of the need to be liked by everyone. Be assertive. In order to break free from the people-pleasing habit, you'll need to learn how to be more assertive with other people. This means speaking up for yourself, expressing your needs, and standing up for what you believe in even if it means being unpopular. Practice saying no. One of the best ways to be assertive and set boundaries with other people is to practice saying no. This can be a difficult thing to do, but it's important to remember that you have a right to say no even if it means disappointing someone else. Be honest with yourself. Another key to breaking free from the people-pleasing habit is to be honest with yourself about your own needs and desires. This means being willing to admit when you're not happy with something, or when you really don't want to do something. It might be uncomfortable at first, but it's important to listen to your own needs and act accordingly. Don't compare yourself to others. One of the main reasons people please others is because they're afraid of being judged or rejected. If you can learn to accept yourself for who you are, and not compare yourself to others, it will be easier to break free from the need to seek approval from others. Be more mindful. An important part of breaking free from the people-pleasing habit is to become more mindful of your own thoughts and feelings, and the impact that your actions have on other people. This means paying attention to your own needs, and being aware of how your actions might be affecting other people. Seek professional help. If you find that you can't break free from the people-pleasing habit on your own, it might be helpful to seek professional help. A therapist can help you understand the root of your problem and give you tools to deal with it in a healthy way. Assertiveness training for people pleasers. I have created a 14-day assertiveness training plan to help you get started in your journey. Each day, you will focus on a specific area and jot down examples of how you have either reflected on this or have put the behavior into action. Day 1. Recognize that people-pleasing is a habit. It's something you do automatically, without even thinking about it. Just like any other habit, it can be broken. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Notice when you say yes, when you really want to say no. Make a list of things you do that are for other people, rather than for yourself. Think about a time when you didn't speak up because you were worried about what others would think or how they would react. Day 2. Challenge your people-pleasing beliefs. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. What are some of the beliefs that fuel your people-pleasing habit? I need to be liked by everyone. I have to please others to be happy. It's selfish to think about my own needs. Challenge these beliefs by asking yourself if they're really true. Are they serving you in a positive way? Day 3. Start saying no. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a situation where you really don't want to do something but feel like you have to. Now, imagine saying no in that situation. What would happen? In reality, it's probably not as bad as you think. And even if it is, it's still better than people-pleasing. Day 4. Set boundaries with others. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. What are some of the ways that people have taken advantage of your people-pleasing habit? Think about a time when someone crossed a boundary with you. How did it make you feel? It's important to communicate your boundaries to others. Let them know what you're comfortable with and what you're not. Day 5. Practice being assertive. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think of a situation where you need to be assertive. It could be something as small as asking a friend to return a borrowed item. Practice what you're going to say in your head. Remember to use I statements, such as I need my coffee mug back. Be direct and to the point. Avoid hedging or apologizing unnecessarily. Don't forget to breathe and stay calm. Assertiveness is not the same as aggression. Day 6. Handle criticism in an assertive way. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a time when someone criticized you. How did you react? Did you get defensive? Maybe you even lashed out or cried. The next time someone criticizes you, try to stay calm and listen to what they have to say. They may have a valid point, and even if they don't, it's still their opinion. Thank them for their feedback and then move on. Day 7. Speak up for yourself. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a situation where you didn't speak up for yourself. What were you afraid of? Now, imagine what would have happened if you had spoken up. Would it really have been that bad? In most cases, the answer is no. So next time, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Day 8. Handle conflict in an assertive way. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a time when you were in a conflict with someone. How did you handle it? Did you avoid the conflict altogether? Or did you try to please both sides and end up pleasing neither? The next time you're in a conflict, try to handle it in an assertive way. State your needs clearly and don't be afraid to negotiate. Day 9. Express your opinions. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a time when you held back your opinion because you didn't want to upset someone else. Now, imagine expressing your opinion anyway. What would happen? In most cases, it's not as bad as you think. And even if it is, it's still better than people pleasing. Day 10. Handle requests in an assertive way. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a time when someone made a request of you that you didn't really want to do. Did you say yes anyway? Or did you try to please them by doing something else instead? The next time someone makes a request of you, try to handle it in an assertive way. State your needs clearly and don't be afraid to negotiate. Day 11. Make your own decisions. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a time when you let someone else make a decision for you. What were you afraid of? Now, imagine making the decision yourself. What would happen? In most cases, it's not as bad as you think. And even if it is, it's still better than people pleasing. Day 12. Don't be afraid to say no. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a time when you said yes to something that you really didn't want to do. What were you afraid of? Now, imagine saying no instead. What would happen? In most cases, it's not as bad as you think. And even if it is, it's still better than people pleasing. Day 13. Set boundaries. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a situation where you didn't set a boundary because you didn't want to upset someone else. Now, imagine setting a boundary anyway. What would happen? In most cases, it's not as bad as you think. And even if it is, it's still better than people pleasing. Day 14. Don't be afraid to ask for what you want. Examples of things you could do or reflect on during the day. Think about a time when you didn't ask for what you wanted because you didn't want to upset someone else. Now, imagine asking for what you want anyway. What would happen? In most cases, it's not as bad as you think. And even if it is, it's still better than people pleasing. Finally, celebrate your success. After 2 weeks of assertiveness training, you should be feeling better about yourself and your ability to handle conflict and set boundaries. Congratulate yourself on a job well done. Setting boundaries with difficult people. Why are some people more difficult than others to deal with? It might be because they have different communication styles or because they grew up in a family where boundary setting was not encouraged. Whatever the reason, it is important to know how to set boundaries with difficult people in order to protect yourself and maintain your sanity. Establish clear boundaries. What are you willing to tolerate from this person? What are your deal breakers? Make a list of things that you will not tolerate, example, yelling, name-calling, put-downs, etc., and make sure that the other person is aware of these boundaries. Examples of things you can say to them are: I don't tolerate yelling. If you raise your voice, I will leave the room. I don't tolerate being disrespected. If you call me names or say hurtful things, I will end the conversation. Be assertive. People who respect boundaries are typically those who are assertive. This means that you communicate what you want without being aggressive. You are direct and to the point without being rude or abrasive. Some examples of assertive statements are: I need some time alone, please do not follow me. Please stop talking now, I need to concentrate. No, I don't want to go to your party. Be consistent. People who respect boundaries are typically those who are consistent with them. This means that you don't allow the person to cross your boundaries sometimes, but not others. If you do, they will quickly learn that they can push your buttons and get away with it. Some examples of consistent statements are: I told you I need some time alone and I meant it. Please leave me alone. I said I didn't want to go to your party and I meant it. I'm not changing my mind. Use I statements. When setting boundaries, it is important to use I statements. This communicates that you are taking responsibility for your own feelings and needs. It also avoids sounding accusatory or like you are attacking the other person. Some examples of I statements are: I feel overwhelmed when you talk to me while I'm trying to concentrate. I need some time alone to think about this. I don't like it when you raise your voice at me. Avoid using you statements. Using you statements is often seen as confrontational and can escalate a situation quickly. It is important to avoid using them when setting boundaries, as they will only make the other person defensive and less likely to listen to what you have to say. Some examples of you statements are: You're always yelling at me. You're so disrespectful. You never listen to me. State your needs clearly. When setting boundaries, it is important to state your needs clearly. This way, there is no confusion about what you are asking for or what you expect from the other person. Some examples of clear statements are: I need you to respect my privacy and not follow me around. I need you to give me some space when I'm upset. I need you to listen to me when I'm talking to you. Give the other person a choice. People often feel more comfortable complying with a request when they feel like they have a choice in the matter. When setting boundaries, it is important to give the other person a choice whenever possible. Some examples of giving choices are: Would you like to talk about this now or later? Would you like to go for a walk with me or stay here? Would you like to listen to me or continue watching TV? Use when/then statements. When/then statements are a great way to set boundaries without sounding confrontational. They communicate what you need while also giving the other person a specific consequence if they do not comply with your request. Some examples of when/then statements are: When you respect my privacy, then I will be happy to talk to you. When you listen to me, then I will be happy to listen to you. When you stop yelling, then we can continue this conversation. Be prepared to follow through on your consequences. It is important to be prepared to follow through on your consequences when setting boundaries. If you do not, the other person will quickly learn that they can ignore your boundaries and get away with it. Some examples of following through are: I said I needed some time alone and I meant it. Please leave me alone. I said I didn't want to go to your party and I meant it. I'm not changing my mind. Don't take responsibility for the other person's feelings. It is important to remember that you are not responsible for the other person's feelings. When setting boundaries, you may need to remind yourself of this if the other person gets angry or upset. Some examples of reminding yourself are: I am not responsible for his anger. I am only responsible for my own feelings and needs. I cannot control how she feels. I can only control how I respond to her. It is not my job to make sure he is happy. I can only focus on myself. Conclusion. From pleaser to master of your life. It is scary to think about all of the things that we have been told our whole lives that we should do in order to be happy and successful. We have been taught to please others, to put their needs above our own, and to sacrifice our own happiness for the sake of others. The problem with this way of thinking is that it leads us down a path of unhappiness and resentment. When we pleasers constantly put others first, we end up feeling used, unappreciated, and taken for granted. we also end up missing out on important aspects of our own lives. It is time for us to take back control and start living our lives for ourselves. It is time for us to become the masters of our own lives. When we start living for ourselves, we will finally be able to achieve the happiness and success that we have always desired. We will no longer be held back by other people's expectations or opinions. We will be free to pursue our own dreams and goals. So if you are ready to take back control of your life, then it is time to start living for yourself. It is time to become the master of your life. Don't forget to subscribe for notifications of new audiobooks.